Greetings to all fans of good movies. In this video, I'm going to tell you about a romantic drama movie called The Light Between Oceans. The story is set in December 1918 and revolves around Thomas Sherborne, a war veteran who is being interviewed for the position of lighthouse keeper. During the interview, he is warned of the difficulties associated with the specifics of the job. However, Tom agrees to all the conditions, showing his determination to get the job.
Wouldn't normally send a single man to Janice, seeing it's only temporary. Welcome to Commonwealth Lighthouse Service.
2 days later, Tom arrives in a port town in Western Australia. After settling in, he visits Captain Hasluck's house. At the reception, he is introduced to the mayor of the city and gradually brought up to date. Miss Gracemark, the daughter of a local school teacher, also appears at the reception, albeit a little late. During lunch, our character learns that the former lightkeeper, who had provided 6 years of perfect service, has unfortunately developed a mental disorder and has been institutionalized. Nevertheless, Tom has signed a 6-month contract with the company, expecting the former keeper to recover and return to service within that time frame. Our character confidently assures those present that he is not afraid of loneliness. Having just returned from the war, he believes this 6-month period will be good for him.
It's been a pleasure meeting you all.
There is a lighthouse on Janice Island, 100 miles from the city. The man is taken by boat to the island and says goodbye for half a year. From the first day of his stay on the island, Tom works hard and fulfills all the duties of the job with honesty. Far from civilization, our character reflects on his experiences in the war and tries to atone for his sins through hard work. After 3 months, a service brigade comes to Janice. Tom is summoned urgently to the town to see the captain. The conversation reveals that the former lightkeeper recently committed suicide, and since our character has proven himself in this position, he is offered a full 3-year contract.
We're confident you won't let us down.
Later, Tom visits the Gracemark family to see the beautiful Isabel, who is also interested in him. During dinner, Isabel takes the initiative and tells her parents that Tom has invited her to a picnic tomorrow. The parents do not object to the idea. The next day, the young couple spends some time together. As they talk, they share their past experiences. Isabel lost 2 brothers in the war and misses them very much, while Tom has only a father left as a relative, but they are not close at all. Changing the subject, the girl asks Tom to take her to the island to see the lighthouse. Unfortunately, that's against company rules, as only the wives of lightkeeper are allowed on Janice.
Then marry me.
Better get you back home.
From that moment on, the young couple begins to exchange letters, sharing their feelings with each other. Through their correspondence, they manage to strengthen their love, and as a result, agree to marry in the future. On their next visit to the mainland, they marry and later sail together to Janice.
You didn't tell me.
It doesn't play. More of a relic.
On Janice, our characters manage to find true happiness, and it seems that nothing can disturb this idyllic life. Isabel quickly adapts to life on the island and becomes a reliable support for her husband. In time, Isabel becomes pregnant. Lying on the grass, the lovers dream of a big family in the future. One evening, a strong wind comes up, and despite the storm, Tom has a job to do. After reassuring his wife, he leaves for the lighthouse. At this point, Isabel begins to experience severe pain in her lower abdomen. In a desperate situation, the girl has no choice but to ask her husband for help. With difficulty, she manages to get to the lighthouse. Unfortunately, Tom has locked the front door due to the bad weather, preventing her from entering. In the morning, Tom comes downstairs and finds his wife lying by the door. The girl has survived, but unfortunately, she had a miscarriage. In the next scene, the parents bury the baby. Tom wants to call the doctor to the island, but Isabel flatly refuses to be examined. She thinks it would be too humiliating, and besides, the baby can't be brought back. Some time later, a strange man arrives on the island with a suitcase in his hand. Offended, Isabel lashes out at her husband and leaves in protest. Later, a pleasant melody begins to play in the house, and angry, Isabel hurries home. When she returns, she sees the piano tuner and begins to cry. our heroine slowly returns to her normal life and soon becomes pregnant again. Unfortunately, this time there is also an accident and she miscarries for the second time. One day, Isabel goes to the grave of her children and, bending her head to the ground, she hears a faint child crying. At that moment, Tom, who is at the lighthouse, sees a boat in the ocean being carried by the waves to their island. He immediately calls out to Isabel. When they run to the shore, they find a baby in the body of an unknown man.
It's a girl. She was starving.
Tom wants to report this incident to his superiors, but Isabel stops him. She suggests that they leave the baby for the night as he is very frightened and may not survive another swim. Seeing his wife's condition, Tom agrees to leave the baby until tomorrow. Early in the morning, the man leaves for the telegraph, but Isabel stops him again. She assures her husband that this cannot be an ordinary coincidence. The girl must be kept and raised as their own daughter. No one knows their secret because Isabel was already pregnant, and they had prepared everything for the birth of their child. If the authorities find out, the orphan will be sent to an orphanage, and they won't be allowed to keep her in the lighthouse at sea.
We can save her. She's here. Oh, baby.
Up to this point, our character has always obeyed the law and tried to live according to his conscience, but because of his love for his wife, he agrees to keep the baby girl. Tom buries the unknown man, then comes to the graves of their children and removes the cross of the second dead child. Then, he sends a telegram to the authorities informing them of his daughter's premature birth. The only thing left to do is to get rid of the boat. During this activity, the man finds a remarkable rattle and decides to take it with him. Soon, company officials arrive on the island to register the child. They congratulate the new parents on this wonderful event and present them with gifts brought from the mainland.
Can you hang on a minute? I was confused myself.
Look at this. Getting a fancy rattle.
Isabel's condition improves considerably with the baby's arrival, and relations with Tom return to normal. Our characters raise and educate the girl as their own daughter. During their next visit to town, the grandparents see Lucy for the first time. The whole family gathers around a festive table to celebrate the occasion. The next day, the baby's christening is scheduled, and while waiting, Tom notices a grieving woman in the cemetery. As he approaches, he sees a headstone that speaks of a little girl and her father who tragically perished at sea. During the christening, thoughts of a possible coincidence do not leave Tom's mind, leaving him troubled and silent all evening.
You all right, my friend?
Saw this memorial today, at the churchyard. Some German fellow and his baby.
Through further dialogue, Tom learns of a tragic story that happened in this area a few years ago. Afterwards, the man is convinced of his suspicions. He saw Lucy's real mother in the cemetery. Now our character is faced with a difficult choice. He can follow his conscience and return the little girl to her rightful mother, but in doing so he will ruin the life of his beloved Isabel. Late at night, Tom goes to the unhappy widow's house and leaves her a note. The next day, Hannah notices the letter. After reading it, she goes straight to the police station. The note says that her husband rests in peace and her daughter remains alive, and that someone is taking care of her. Hannah asks the policeman to search the townspeople, but the surgeon refuses, saying that the anonymous note cannot be used as evidence for a search. Meanwhile, our characters have returned to Janus, where they feel safe away from the city.
Read it, Dada.
With love forever and ever and ever and ever. It's the loveliest present I ever had.
Years pass and Lucy spends a lot of time outdoors, playing with Tom and helping Isabel around the house. One day, Tom receives an invitation to the 40th anniversary of the lighthouse, to which Hannah's family is also invited, since her father sponsored the construction of the island. During the event, Hannah gets to know our characters and asks Tom about the fate of the people who were carried out to sea on a boat, she inquiring if the rest of the sailors come to the aid of such people. Tom is confused by what he has heard and does not give a concrete answer.
You have a very lovely daughter. Excuse me.
As the conversation progresses, Isabel learns of the terrible tragedy in which Hannah lost her husband and infant daughter, causing her to mope again. The next day, Tom suggests that his wife do the right thing and return the little girl to her rightful mother. But Isabel replies that it is too late. She considers herself Lucy's real mother. That night, Hannah finds another message in her mailbox. This time, Tom has left her the baby rattle he found on the boat, providing more compelling evidence for an investigation. Hannah's father is offering a handsome reward for information on the case. One of the company's employees notices the ad and remembers seeing the toy in little Lucy's possession. Soon investigators arrive on the island. Tom, anticipating this, confesses and takes the blame. He tells the sergeant that he violently suppressed his wife's will, making Isabel the victim in this case. Tom is taken into custody and charged with premeditated murder and the kidnapping of a child. Isabel refuses to forgive her husband for such an act. When questioned, she refuses to testify, so she remains free, but Lucy is taken from her.
Take the child.
After an investigation, the girl is given to her legal mother. At birth, she is named Grace, but the baby doesn't want to be called that. She cries all the time and asks to be taken to her real mother. One day, the mothers meet in a store. The girl immediately runs to Isabel and begs her not to leave her. In such a difficult situation, Hannah has to take her own child away from the Isabel. Later, Lucy manages to escape from the house. The whole town is looking for her. Luckily, the little girl is found on the coast. She was trying to get to the lighthouse. The sergeant returns the girl to Hannah.
Thank you.
Everyone who knows Tom knows that he would never commit such a crime. Miss Grace Mark begs her daughter to make a truthful statement to the police, or her husband could be executed. Just then, Hannah appears on the doorstep. With tears in her eyes, the woman tells Isabel that she is willing to give her the girl if she will publicly declare her innocence and help the investigation lead to Tom's conviction. This time, Isabel must make a difficult choice, but her decision is much more serious, because the life of an innocent person depends on it. After reading a farewell letter from Tom, the girl still chooses him. At the police station, she learns that her husband is already on trial. At the last moment, she manages to catch up with the canvasser and tells the sergeant everything.
Tom! Frank was dead when the boat washed up. It was my idea. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
After learning the truth, Hannah asks the court to be lenient on the defendants. As a result, their sentences are commuted to fines and several months in jail. In time, the girl adjusts to her new family and receives a good education. Many years later, an elderly Tom notices a car in his window heading for his house.
Afternoon. You lost?
Hope not. My name is Lucy Grace Rutherford. I'm Lucy.
Lucy tracked down her foster parents and came to visit, bringing her young son. Unfortunately, Isabel had already passed away. Before she died, she wrote a letter to her daughter asking for forgiveness for what she had done. At the end of the movie, Tom is looking out at the ocean. The sunlight reflects on his face, and the man finally finds true peace. Thanks to everyone who watched until the end. On this channel, you will always find retellings of good movies.